coming up on this episode.
I said, I'm really sorry. I don't know why. I said, I'm not good at this. I'm not skilled at this. But here's the death card, and it's in a place that says it's a bad thing.
Welcome to Unholy Vibes, a journey through the realms of true horror. Although not a religious podcast, our guests may present stories intertwined with personal faiths and beliefs to maintain authenticity. We welcome guests from various spiritual backgrounds, acknowledging the impact of their beliefs on their experiences. Thank you for joining. Let's dive in with an open mind and respect for all perspectives. Welcome to Unholy Vibes. I'm your host, Alex, and today we have another very special guest, my stepmom, Lorraine. Say hi, Lorraine. Introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Lorraine. And yeah, Alex is my son, and I'm happy about that. It's cool.
She is very cool. We're glad to be here together. Lorraine has been my mother for many moons. Yeah. You and Dad got married in 2011. 11.
That's right.
So you guys have been together, but even longer than that. And it's been fantastic. You're great. I love you.
Thank you.
Just a heads up. She's not the wicked stepmother, okay? We love her. She's great. So years ago, Lorraine told me a story. You told me a story.
We were talking about it one night.
Yeah, because again,
regaled you.
I love spooky stories. Everyone knows it. I do now, at least. And it stuck with me, but the details got foggy, so I couldn't remember. And as you were retelling me earlier, I was like, oh yes, that one. I had mixed up some of your stories, I think. So give us the background, give us all the insight, spare no detail. Tell us your story. And this is your own personal story. We want to hear all the details.
Okay. I was a teenager growing up in Auburn, Washington, and we went all the time when we became 16, old enough to drive. We became people who went to the U District in Seattle to hang out. There was a lot more people there. There was a lot of traffic. There was a lot of marijuana available. There was lots of stuff going on. So we made friends with some people who lived in a house up on Queen Anne Hill, as it was called. It's still called Queen Anne Hill, like an old woman. And the house that these people lived in, I think the way it worked is that there was one anchor tenant and then the other people rented rooms.
Okay.
So my friend was...
Old school Airbnb style, kind of.
Yeah. My friend was going to be graduating a year before me, and she was going to move into Seattle. I was so jealous, and she wanted to rent a room in this house. The woman who was our contact person had a really close friend who didn't rent in the house, but who stayed in the house most of the time, and they called themselves witches. They believed that they were witches, and they espoused witchcraft and lived that way and said that.
Now, who are we to tell them they're not, right?
Well, I wasn't going to.
You're like, they're crazy.
I was 16. They were 27, probably, I'm guessing. So Nancy was our contact person, and her friend, she was obviously the leader, and her friend was the follower and supporter of her theories and ideas and things. So I never actually went to a seance or anything like that with her. But this one night we were doing tarot cards, and she was introducing me to tarot cards. I have a natural affinity for all things spiritual. I seem to be able to feel things sometimes that other people can't or won't pay attention to. And so it wasn't a surprise to me when we were doing the tarot cards that it was a natural flow for me. I felt very comfortable with it. So as we were doing the tarot cards, she goes, oh yeah, Teresa, do you want to go look at that room to see if you want to rent it? And we said, oh yeah, sure. This is either a Friday or Saturday night, because that's the only time we went in there. And then we would get dressed up and go dancing. We didn't drink, but we did other things that were stimulating. And then hopped off to either the Trolley Club or the Eagles Auditorium to see bands playing music, and had a great time. So this particular night, while we're doing the tarot cards, and then Nancy said to Teresa, do you want to go up and look at the room? We said, yeah, sure, that sounds great. And we had been asking to look at the roof. Teresa had been asking to look at the room. I'm not looking at the room. I have one more year of high school to finish, so I'm not going to do this.
Oh, she wanted to look at it to live in, like, full time, not a rent. Oh,
To
rent.
To be a renter in this house with these other people. No one was living upstairs,
Gotcha.
so it was the perfect transfer for her because we didn't always see the other people that lived there.
Okay. I had put the own idea in my head of Airbnb, and I thought, oh, you just went up to rent the room for weekends at a time. Okay.
No,
Okay.
she wanted to live there.
Okay.
So Nancy pulled one of those ladders down, the collapsible.
Yeah, kind of like to get into an
retractable-
attic
Yes.
kind of thing.
Yes.
Yeah.
My first thought was, is that going to be her way of getting up to her room? That's kind of weird. I didn't say anything. And we all trooped up the stairs, the three of us. There was a guy involved. He was watching us do the tarot cards and we were throwing tarot cards for him. At any rate, we went up into the room. As you went up the ladder, there was a room directly ahead, and then there was a small room on the left and a bigger room on to the right.
So it wasn't actually an attic, though.
No, it was huge. I mean, when you were standing up there, the ceilings were 10 feet tall.
Oh.
So this is the third floor of the house. But when you were up there, it was extremely spacious. In fact, there was a round window in the room that she was going to rent, the main room. She had a sitting room, a main room, and then there was a third room. It was dark. We couldn't really see that last room at this time. So there was stuff in there. I don't know how big that room was or exactly if she was going to get that room. It wasn't my stuff, so I wasn't paying as close attention as I would if it was mine. As we got to the top of the ladder, Nancy looked at me and she said, by the way, there's a lot of spirits in this house and they hate the tarot cards. I looked down at her because she was kind of poking at us all evening. And I said, well, that's interesting. She put the deck of tarot cards inside, like right at the top of the ladder, and shut the accordion door. So we stumbled around
The staircase.
Gotcha. We were stumbling around in this room. Beautiful, big, round window, just like a big eyeball. Big, probably 8 feet tall, 4 feet wide. Big window, round. I look back now and with complete envy, thinking about how beautiful this house was. It was a magnificent old lady. That's how I thought about those houses up on Queen Anne Hill. So we're looking at this room and thinking how big it was and talking about that. And then the electricity went off. And we thought, oh, come on, Nancy, get a grip. What are you doing? You're messing with us. You're just poking at us again, messing with us. So it was flickering. So we walked into the next room, and you could see to the right a narrow staircase, maybe 1/3 of the width of a normal staircase, with a banister on the left and the wall on the right. So we talked about sitting there and looking at the room more, but then the electricity went off completely and stayed off, so we started down the stairs. The guy was in the lead. His name was Chris. So Chris started down the staircase. He took about 4 steps, and you had one hand on the banister and one hand on the wall to kind of guide you, because you couldn't really see where you were going. And we're on the 3rd floor. About 4 steps in, the entire banister collapsed and fell. There was no holdbacks. If we fell, we wouldn't be okay.
You're 3 stories high.
3 stories
3 stories high right now.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So personally, I was hugging the wall. 2 hands on the wall. I'm there. There's dust. I don't care.
I would have crawled down backwards to hold onto the steps just because I don't like heights or the idea of falling from heights.
I wasn't that bothered by it now. I am now.
Yeah.
Or then I am now.
You're right.
So we proceeded to inch our way down the stairs until we got down. And then there was a door we encountered. We had no idea where we were coming out. Opened the door, and we came out in a place that we'd never really noticed a door there before. So we came out, and everything seemed to be okay. So we, wasn't that funny? No, that was freaking weird. And carried on with our night, went out and listened to some music and came back in.
Just having a good time.
Having a good time. We had one of those couches, and it was in the living room. There was living rooms in different places, but in the living room where we were going to stay.
This sounds like a massive home.
Big, big, big home. Yes.
Like a mansion.
Mansion. It was a mansion.
So do you think, I'm just helping myself paint a picture here, because of how old it was, does that explain the narrow staircase and the build of this place? Because
Yes.
I never think of a narrow, like that's small. That's like the third of a regular staircase is like a foot.
It was about 1.5 feet. So Teresa, my friend, we'd been friends for a couple of years. We're going to sleep over and then get up in the morning and go to the Pike Place Market and go, have coffee at the Pike Place. We didn't drink coffee at that time. It wasn't essential like it is now. But at that point, it was like a stimulant that we could indulge in. So we were going to go and do the Pike Place Market in the morning and just tool around Seattle. We would be basing ourselves in Seattle and then carrying on from there, which was pretty cool because you could ride the buses and stuff. We didn't have buses in Auburn like that. So the place where we were going to sleep was one of those couches that the couch is sitting there with the back up, and you push the back forward toward the seat and then flatten it back and it clicks. So Teresa and I laid down. We had one blanket over us, and this is probably 3.5 hours after our experience in the attic. She and I are laying feet to feet at each end of the couch. It's not a very big couch. No big deal. Blanket covering us. At about midnight, I felt like I was choking. I couldn't figure out what was going on. And I opened my eyes and I saw a swirling circle around my head. And there was weird stuff in the swirling circle, like a tornado picking stuff up. There was stuff in there, and occasionally a face would come out. Now, I'm not really awake, but this is what I saw. In the meantime, I'm choking. So a tornado is happening. The tornado is smothering me. And I'm seeing faces, not happy faces, not friendly faces, coming out of this tornado with other things swirling around in it.
It's terrifying.
I sat bolt upright. Imagine my surprise that exactly at the same time, Teresa sat bolt upright. So we met in the middle.
Bonk.
We were scared shitless.
Yeah.
We grabbed each other, and I said, "Did you see the tornado?" She said, "Yeah." And she goes, "You saw it?" I said, "Yeah." And I go, "Oh no, what's happening?" And we were shaking like a leaf, holding on to each other, and we stayed that way for the rest of the night. There was no more sleeping. Maybe it was later than 12 o'clock. It's possible it was later than 12 o'clock. I don't remember. I just remember the night was endless. We sat there holding each other. I don't remember crying, but I remember being so bothered that I never spent the night in that house again.
No, why would you?
Never. And old houses have things that have happened there. And you watch The Shining, and he says it's like toast. When somebody burns toast and you can smell the smell, it's that kind of a thing. It leaves behind some kind of essence. So
residue.
It wasn't shocking that something had happened. But what was really weird was that Teresa and I, at exactly the same moment, had exactly the same choking thing and the tornado and bolt upright together on that couch. Very weird.
Well, a lot of people would think sleep paralysis, right? Sleep paralysis, you see things, you hear things, you feel things, but you're half awake, half asleep, or your eyes are open and you're still asleep in some part of you, and you experience sleep paralysis demons is what they call it. But then you can't move because your body's still like, I'm asleep, right? And you're like, no, I'm awake.
That was that case for a few minutes, laying there with my eyes open,
right,
looking up at the tornado.
But the fact that you both saw the same thing,
and that we both, even though our eyes were open and we laid there, we both sat up at exactly the same moment.
You were seeing the same thing, you're experiencing the same thing.
Right.
So from the skeptic eye, you'd say, oh, coincidence, sleep paralysis, whatever. But
my friend is a skeptic. And I communicate with her lightly from time to time now. But she's not my friend per se. We don't communicate and hang out or anything like that.
You're not besties.
No, we were at that time.
Right, right. So all night goes by. It's morning time. Do you bring this up to anyone, or do you just say, let's get out of here?
I said something to Teresa because Teresa had poked at us the night before with the tarot cards.
And she's the self-proclaimed witch.
She said she was a witch.
Right.
I'd never had anybody say that to me.
Right.
And I told her that something happened in the night. And she turned and looked at me and she said, that's what happens when you start poking at them.
You're like, I wasn't poking at them. That was you. You're the one.
Right. But I was really interested because I feel like I have a natural affinity.
Right.
And I do tarot cards now from time to time.
Right.
But I didn't, after other experiences in that house, I didn't for years. 25 years.
Yeah. That would turn you off to it.
Yeah.
And did you were using the cards while you were there that one time, or was it a separate occasion where you were drawing cards?
Separate occasion.
Separate occasion.
I was a learner that night. I was a learner.
Yeah.
And I was only being taught, and I was only observing and not doing the cards. And I wasn't really using my energy on the cards.
Okay.
But the entire event was very moving to me. So another time I did do the cards. And I freaked myself out so bad that I never did the cards again.
For 25 years.
At least 25 years.
Do you want to tell that whole story?
Sure. We would go there to that same house because there were several gay guys that lived there. And we loved to watch the gay guys get ready to go out.
You're like, what's your skincare routine? Tell me all about it.
They would be really jealous and competitive with us. We were young teenagers. We were, fresh and attractive. And they were guys.
Yeah.
And so they were trying to get the perfect outfit on. And every time they would look at us, it was like we were in competition with them, which we weren't. But it was just funny.
And what?
To have that much power.
And this was the 80s?
No, this was 1969.
So there are these guys that lived at that house?
There was a few gay guys that lived at that house. And then there was Queen Anne Hill. There was many of these big houses there. There was another house where some of their friends lived. So we would go from house to house, smoke a little with these people, and then go over to the other people's house and hang out with them. We didn't drink. We were driving a distance, and I'm happy that we didn't drink now, looking back at it, because people that did died.
Don't drink and drive, right? That's a whole thing now.
I know.
So you would get ready with these guys, you'd hang out with them, kind of travel around, hang out with friends. It was a good time.
It was a neighborhood.
Yeah.
We were in the hood and we were hanging out. Yeah, we were getting ready. We went to the trolley club and danced our butts off, or went to Eagles Auditorium. Eagles Auditorium had unbelievable acts. I mean, Fleetwood Mac, Jeff Beck, Santana, Jimi Hendrix was there, Janis Joplin was there. All these bands that now are the famous classic people, they were performing there. Yeah. They would do drop-ins and hang out with their cronies. And then there was a laserium light show in the background with liquids being moved around to create this laserium light show.
That's cool.
Meanwhile, everybody's sitting on either the main floor or the balcony floor.
Just having a blast.
Sitting on the ground, bottles of wine being passed, everybody just hanging out. It was pretty cool.
Yeah, so...
Pretty cool.
I'm taking us off track here, so I apologize, but you're out having a blast. That night, or one of these nights that you're out visiting, you decide you think you're ready for a little bit of tarot cards.
I'm ready to do the cards.
Okay.
I'm at the house where we had this terrible experience. And I'm not going to do the cards and stay there, but I'm going to do the cards before we go out.
Right. You're like, light the fire, then leave.
That's right. That's right. So I'm doing cards. Somebody came in and he was with somebody else in a little MG car. And he had one of those scarves on that was long and was thrown behind his neck. He comes in and he's being all flip and he's drinking scotch or something like that. So he came in and asked me to do his cards, and I said, sure. So I started to do his cards. I was doing a 12-card reading. And I came to a place where the death card came up. And I went, no, I don't want to do that. I didn't know that much about the cards. I was reading from the book to do my interpretations. So I slipped the card back into the deck and shuffled again. And I kept shuffling and talking and shuffling and talking. That's how I determine which card is the next card. Shuffling and talking, and all of a sudden the card drops down. So I take it and flip it over, and it's the death card again. And I went, huh, that's weird. And the guy looks over and he sees a death card. And he says, that's weird. And I said, yeah, I'm not really keen on that card. Do you mind if I put it back in the deck? I said, why don't you put your hand on top of this deck for me so that your energy, I'm talking to him while he puts his hand on top of it, put your energy into these cards because it's just my energy. I had my own deck at this time, so this was my deck. I had a little wooden box. I kept them in a silk scarf. They were protected from energy coming from extraneous sources like this house we were in. So he did that. He put his hand on my cards, and I shuffled them again and shuffled them and talked to him as I shuffled them until a card fell out. And the card that fell out was a death card. And I put the death card there, and I said, this doesn't necessarily mean death. It may mean the end of something.
Okay.
So I said, I'm just going to read it. That's 3 times this card's come up in this same place. This is too weird. I read his reading, and it said that he was going to die. And I was reading it, and I didn't want to read it. I didn't want to know that, and I didn't want to be there, and I didn't want to feel that energy to tell him that.
Do you recall what the other cards were that you pulled?
No.
You just know that you pulled death 3 times, and that was... Just...
3 times? 3 times?
You're no magician.
No. We didn't have cell phones in. You couldn't take a picture. I mean, now I would take a picture of it, and then I would study it later and say, what happened? But we didn't have cell phones. That didn't exist. Mm-hmm. So, thank goodness that didn't exist. There's no proof of what we did.
Other than these stories.
So I told him, I said, I'm really sorry. I don't know why. I said, I'm not good at this. I'm not skilled at this. But here's the death card, and it's in a place that says it's a bad thing. Would you just go with us tonight and not go and do whatever it was you were going to go do? And he goes, no, I got all these plans. We're going to go out to Mercer Island and score this and do this and blah, 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 blah. And I said, well, would you consider changing your plans and just hanging out with us? I said, Teresa, I'll hang out with you. And it was like, no, I got a plan. Don't worry about it. It's not a big deal. And I said, this is weird. I feel weird about it.
You got some bad vibes.
Really bad vibes. He died that night in a car accident. And I was so freaked out that I put my tarot cards away and I didn't use them or deal with them or do anything with them for at least 25 years. And now I do them. I try to only do 3 card readings, and I do that only for my friends or myself. And I just ask the status of, and then I have a specific question. But I don't do full readings because I'm just not comfortable with all of that energy.
Right. I got all icky just talking about it, Mm-hmm. Do you think that because you were in the house that had all this pre-existing negative energy, that it affected all of this, or do you just think it was what it was and it was going to happen?
I think that I have the ability to be like a door. And I'm very careful with that. And I stay away from it. And my youngest daughter has called me and been crying and freaked out about her personal experiences because she's very similar to me. And my analogy is it's like a plug. You have a plug in the wall. The electricity is going through it. You take a light and you plug it in and you turn the light on and it works great and everything's wonderful. You go to the same light socket or the same plug and you take a bobby pin and you shove it in there. You are going to get knocked on your butt.
Yeah.
I consider the entire spiritual world the same as that electricity, and that it's flowing and working in the wall and it's working on another level than we are currently here. And it's not our responsibility to plug into that.
Especially not with a bobby pin.
No. Yeah. So a Ouija board is a bobby pin.
I don't even, never have, never will.
Don't.
And I agree I think that's a door you don't want to knock on.
That's right. No, you don't want to, because once you open it, you can't always close it.
When I likened it before, I forget who I was talking to. It's one of my previous guests, but I likened it unto going fishing. You cast your line out into the void. You don't get to choose what bites and what you pull back.
And if you come back with something that is biting and snapping, you could get hurt. That's a great analogy. My mind is stuck on the electricity because it's constant. The electricity is always flowing there. It's always there.
Right.
And if it's wired correctly and you use the right plug, everything works great.
Right. Yeah, I was referring to like the Ouija board specifically, things like that,
Yeah.
where you're literally calling out, asking for something specific. Like, who knows? But I like that analogy, though. I do. And I think there are other people who think just like that. It's an ever-flowing energy around us.
Well, and I think that different people have the ability, I think I used the word door. You can use a bridge analogy where you can use different thought processes for how you describe that or think about it. I have gone into many places and felt energy that I didn't want to feel and left.
Right.
And I don't get scared or freaked out. I just say, not for me.
Yeah, that's a good way to handle it. Not for me. Not today. No thanks. Because I think fear can feed into a lot of it and make you act irrationally and enhance a negative situation. A situation that's pre-existingly negative, your fear doesn't help. So it's just easier just to say, no thanks.
Physiologically, fear brings up adrenaline. I'm a rooted in basics kind of person. So if you bring up your adrenaline, then you start to sweat. And once you start to sweat, you give off pheromones and you give off scents. And I believe that you become the bridge.
A shaky bridge, too. Maybe a sturdy bridge for some bad energies to come across. Yeah. Who knows? There's a million different ways to look at it, I think.
Yeah.
And so I mean, I've grown up in my own religious sphere. Even outside of that, I think if I had not grown up religious, I don't think I would ever mess with even cards or Ouija boards, the dowsing rods.
Dowsing rods are different.
I've had people treat it like a Ouija board, though.
Seriously?
Where they ask questions and they have to say hello, goodbye, and close the door, basically.
Have you ever seen anyone witch for water with the dowsing?
I've talked about this previously. Yeah, people do water witching.
I've seen it.
And I learned about it when I was young from Randy, my stepfather.
Yeah.
And he said he would water witch to look for wells to dig when he was building homes.
Yeah.
And I was like, is there a scientific thing behind this? And a lot of people...
There is.
I would love to fully understand that, but there are people that are deeply religious that say you shouldn't even water witch because literally witch is in the name, water witching. It could totally be based in science, but the fact that people, I don't know, but some people are uncomfortable with it. I have seen it done with sticks, not even with the rods, but I have friends personally that have used it as almost like a Ouija board. Yes or no questions.
Right.
Yes, no.
Well, that's again the bobby pin in the light socket to me.
Yeah, literally a metal rod.
I mean, if I'm looking for water and I'm using a dowsing rod to find water, my intentions are very different than if I'm looking for answers to stuff that I have no business looking for answers to. Right. And I don't think that we have any business poking around in that I consider it a different metaphysical plane that exists.
Don't poke the spiritual bear, know?
No. But if you're dowsing for a well and that's your intent, it's pure.
Yeah, no big deal.
And my daughter and I, the conversations that we've had a couple times, because she's been so scared about it, I told her that she also has the same affinity to that whole plane for them to... There is unrest. And the unrest causes angst. My opinion, this is all my opinion. This unrest causes angst, and the angst surfaces like a volcano, just bubbles up and spews out once in a while. And that's what people are trying to connect with Ouija boards and the dowsing rods, if you were using them for answering questions and things like that. And I consider it really dangerous. I think that it's more power than you can handle or should be trying to handle. So leave it alone.
Yeah.
And
I agree.
who's qualified then, and why would you need to do that? That's a whole nother.
Right. When I say there's so much we don't know, there's more that we don't know than we do know.
I
right?
agree.
Spiritually, scientifically, I mean, we know a lot. We know a lot of things, but in reality, we don't know so much about a lot.
Is this the opposite of your spiritual world, though, Alex? I find it really weird that you're inquiring and delving into this arena when you have such a path specific to your life, to your world, that this is the opposite spectrum.
I find it all fascinating.
Yeah.
And for me, I like to hear other people's perspectives, their experiences, and their insights. We may not believe the same. That doesn't mean I can't respect or tolerate or listen to other people's beliefs, points of view, things like that. Yeah, I'm deeply rooted in my own faith and my own spiritual journey and all of that, but that doesn't mean I can't hear about yours.
Do you think you're poking the bear?
Potentially. And I say this because I've talked with a few people that have come on the show before. And I bring this up that when you get together with people and you start talking about spooky experiences, you bring in the unholy vibes. You feel that energy, right?
It's right there. It's right there.
But I'm not trying to egg something on. I'm not saying, show us a sign. It's just, let me hear about your experiences. Because I've met with people that are deeply religious. I've met with people that are atheist. And you can be anywhere on the religious spectrum and still have an experience and talk about it. People who are not religious and have experiences will rectify or justify their experiences in a very specific way that makes sense for them and their spiritual or non-spiritual lifestyle. So for me, I do it for entertainment, for fascination. I am fascinated because I believe I have more power than any spirit does. I'm a physical being. And if I don't give something or negative energy power or invite it in, then I think I have the power.
But you're skating around the edge of the rim of a big hole, and that can be folly on some level. You know what I always told my kids was the definition of rationalization is when you take the truth and stretch it to fit over the facts that you want it to fit over. And it's not always a good fit, but you stretch it to fit.
Yeah.
So I guess the reason I asked you that question is because it's been a surprise to me that you, of all the people I know, are pursuing this. Because I know that your faith is steady and strong and true.
Right.
And I'm very spiritual.
Yeah.
I'm very spiritual. And I have a very clean energy, spiritual feeling about that.
Well, I would say, going along with what I was saying, when you talk about things, you can feel you feel that buzzing, you feel that vibration. But I like to do a nice little cleanse afterwards. And my way of cleansing myself of any of that negativity or bad vibes is, it's not even deeply religious. I'll go watch cartoons. I'll watch something uplifting and light and fun. And even if it's a comedy, some sort of comedy, just something to bring back in keep lighten things up. Mm-hmm. And I think for me personally, that kind of does it. I could pray, I could do whatever, right? Anything would do, but I don't ever feel like I get so deep into a hole that I can't get out. Literally my go-to is, let's just watch something fun, something funny. Let's lighten the mood.
I guess my fear is that some of that energy, like I said, is so strong that we think we are so powerful because we're alive and we're strong life forms. Mm-hmm. But we may not have as much power as we think we do. And we need to be respectfully careful. Mm-hmm. No, I mean, yes, respectful, but respectfully careful to not poke the bear. So I just thought I'd ask you that question.
No, I appreciate that. I appreciate that insight as well, because you're right. I bring it up. I love bringing it up. And I think I've said before on the show, at least, and to other people in conversation, I'm not very spiritually sensitive. While I am a religious and spiritual person, I don't consider myself sensitive to spiritual matters.
Oh, okay.
I don't have on either good or bad ends of the spectrum.
You don't feel that energy?
Not very often. But when I do recognize, like, oh, hey, that, not saying like, oh, that was a sign. Like, I'm not saying I'm like spiritually dead by any means. It's more of some people who are spiritual or religious have an ability to discern things in real time. I feel really at peace because I know that this thing is happening, or these spirits are here comforting me, or whatever. I've never seen a ghost. I've never seen a spirit that I know of, right? I have friends who are like, yes, I've seen a ghost. I watched it happen and it disappeared in front of my eyes. I've seen a shadowy figure that I knew was malevolent or evil, and it was there until it wasn't, or, things like that. I don't really have those things happen to me. And my entire life, I've just been kind of like here. I'm not up here. I'm not down here on the religious sensitivity. So positive or negative. It's not like I'm having angels minister to me. I'm not having demons minister to me. You know what I mean? It's
right.
Neither this or that.
Did you ever walk in someplace and feel energy? Good or bad?
Yeah. But again, it's not super often. I'm a very logical person. I just observe, try to apply logic. And some people will say, well, logic and religion don't go together. How do you, right? Logic and religion don't go very well together. How do you reconcile that? And I don't know. I just do. I want to believe this and have faith in this, but I can also say, that person seems off by the way they're acting. Maybe I won't pick up on an energy, but again, going back, I have people that I know that will say there's something off, and I'll trust them. I never go to a person and say, wow, that person was glowing with light because they're just this holy person. I just see people as they are. And so, I don't know, maybe I should try being less logical. I don't know. I like to apply logic and make it work with my own beliefs. Not everyone can do that. Not many people do that or want to or try to or whatever. Or maybe it's more do than I know. I don't know everyone. I don't know everyone's experiences.
Well, no, it's a powerful energy force. This is a powerful energy force that you're taking out of the box to look at. Yeah. And that's why I asked you that. I mean, these are not the only stories I have. I have other stories. Yes. I have experiences, a lot of experiences in weird things,
right.
that, and I don't want to talk about that now, but I don't take it lightly.
Right.
I don't take it as happenstance or look at it as, oh, that was an off day or a weird day or anything like that. Right. I look at it as you better be careful.
Right. And going back to your electricity analogy, I just think I'm a closed circuit.
Okay.
I can't really plug in.
Interesting. Okay.
I think that's how I would work.
That's a really good analogy. That helps me.
And I think even if I went to a Ouija board, nothing would happen. Even if I said demons or spirits come to me and tell me something on this, I don't think it would happen. I just don't think physically or spiritually, I don't think I have the capacity to even be on that tune in. I can't tune into that.
Has anyone ever threatened your life?
Not in a serious way. I don't think. Not that I can recall.
Okay. You would know.
Yeah.
You would know.
I mean.
That's good.
Yeah. I had people on my mission. Again, I go back to my mission because you experience a lot in 2 years. Mm-hmm. And you see a lot of people and you talk to a lot of different people in different walks of life. And I think I had one guy say, get off my porch or I'll shoot you. But it was just like, get out of here. I don't really want you guys around. And that's typical. It was Texas, everyone's like, don't make me whip out my gun, But yeah, I would just say, I think closed circuit, I don't have that capacity, and call that a spiritual gift or a blessing or a curse. I don't know.
It's a blessing.
It just is.
It's a blessing.
Right.
Because your faith is so strong that you don't have any doubts.
That might be it. I don't even think about it. It just is. Yeah. I have a really high base level. I couldn't even fathom being shaken in faith. Now, I'm not saying that to gloat. I'm a silly goose. I have a silly goose fun time, but I think I can be a silly goose and still just be at a really high baseline of faith, unshaken.
I always looked at it as I knew that I didn't have one, but I had two guardian angels because it was the only way I was going to make it through certain situations. And when I came out the other side, sometimes I went, looking for smoke. There must be smoke from this. Yeah. This was big. And things that, well, I don't know if I'm going to make it through this.
Right. And I don't want it to sound like, for anyone listening or watching, I don't want it to sound like if you have spiritual experiences, you're not strong in your faith. That's not what I'm getting at. I think that's separate of me just being closed off circuit to it all.
If you're a closed circuit, then what that means is that you generate electricity as it goes around. So you are generating enough electricity that nothing can penetrate that force field. And that makes sense.
And again, I don't know. That's just my way of making sense and thinking of it in real time as we're talking about it. But again, I have people that are very spiritually sensitive. You, Colleen, my mother, you're very similar in the way you.
We get along really well.
Yes, you besties. If you lived in the same town, we all be in trouble.
We would be really good friends.
You'd start your own little. You'd start your own little coven. Well, she would. You know, I talked to her and. She runs her crystal shop and all that. I'm like, you're the witch of Wickenburg. That's what I should start calling her.
Oh, I would have been put to death as a witch years ago. I mean, I'm into my herbalism and to a point where I would have been called a witch and been put to death.
Tinctures? I don't think so. You know?
Yeah.
Let's burn her at the stake or whatever. I joke to both of you, but to me, really going back to your original question, it's just fascination and entertainment. And I think people like to hear about it. Why do people watch murder documentaries and true crime documentaries? It's dark, it's morbid. Why are we fascinated by it? I don't know. Morbid curiosity is a thing. That's just where we're at. I like it. I find it fascinating. And I think those things don't have any power over me personally. And some people can't talk about those things because they think I don't even want to talk about it because that's upsetting to me. And it will make me feel a certain way. And I have friends that are like that. They don't want to watch scary movies, horror movies. They don't want to do any of that kind of stuff because they're very sensitive. They don't want to tune into that frequency.
I don't watch demon possession movies.
Right. I have a friend.
I don't watch.
He lived in South America. That's where he served his mission. Had some rough experiences, and when he got back, he said, "I can't watch anything possession or witch related. It just is too much for me."
Yeah. I can watch witch stuff, but I can't watch possession. I don't want to. It makes me really uncomfortable. So there's no point to it.
Yeah. But again, I look at those things and I think this is just Hollywood production. This is so unlike what would probably happen in real life. Potentially. I mean, they get a lot of their ideas from somewhere, I'm sure.
You should go back and read. I read a lot of literature about the time of the witches, and they used to burn people at the stake routinely. If somebody didn't like you, they reported you as a witch to get rid of you. So it was like the social dramas that people watch on TV now. It's like that.
Yeah.
Only people die.
Well, I previously met with a woman named Haley, and she studied ancient demonology, the origins of demons, jinn and genies, all that kind of stuff. And we talked all the way up through the witch trials and how it was just something else. Like it was crazy. If you got accused, but being a Puritan back then, if you got accused of being a witch and you said, "Yes, I'm a witch, don't kill me," they would let you live a lot of the times if you said, "Yes, I'm a witch." If you denied, then they would keep torturing you or kill you. I may be misremembering, but I'm pretty sure she was saying if they accused you and you admitted it after whatever, you would be let go and repent and be healed or whatever. But then your reputation is tarnished. You might as well be dead.
It depends on where you lived and who your person. There was always a lead person doing the spiritual investigation, and those people were dogmatically deranged, I want to say. That's all that they were doing, and that was their gig.
Yeah. There's so much I don't know about it, but
reading.
It was fascinating talking to her because she literally studied this in college, is a historian. She is a historian, and one of the most fascinating conversations I've ever had. It was really, really fun talking to her, and she's going to come back and we can dive into more. I think you'll really like her episode when it comes out. Anyway, anything else you want to touch on? You
No.
feel satisfied?
No, I do feel satisfied. I'm really happy that we had talked about you and this relationship with this program, this process program, whatever you want to call it, because I was curious about it. It has caused me wonderment.
Right. Well, shoot. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
I love you. I love you. Thank you so much for recording with me and being on the Unholy Vibes podcast.
Mm-hmm.
And I hope everyone listening enjoyed. And I hope they can appreciate our insight. And yeah, just thank you.
Yeah.
Everyone out there, if you have your own experiences you want to tell or you want to share with the world, reach out to me on Instagram at unholyvibespod or email me at unholyvibespod@gmail.com. I'd love to hear your stories. It's like the infomercials. If you or a loved one has been affected by this, call this number. I should get a phone line set up. I should get a landline specifically for that. 1-800-SPOOKY or something like that. Thanks for listening. Stay spooky. We'll see you next time. There you go.
Bye.
Bye.